You've probably seen these labels everywhere on your TVs and laptops. But how do these screens actually differ? They look identical on the outside, but underneath, they are completely different. Today, we are breaking down the differences in a simple and understandable way. So let's get right into it. You've definitely heard of CRT displays, or at least you remember the massive, heavy TVs that used to sit in the corner of every living room. But how did those giant glass boxes actually create an image? At the back of every classic CRT monitor sits an electron gun, a high-powered light cannon that fires a continuous beam of energy forward. To turn this single beam into a full picture, it passes through magnetic deflection coils. These coils act as steering gates, rapidly bending the beam up, down, left, and right, forcing it to paint lines across a glass screen coated in tiny phosphor circles that glow the instant they are struck. It happens so fast your brain stops seeing a moving dot and starts seeing a solid image. But this architecture had a massive physical limitation. To make a screen wider, you had to pull the gun further back so the coils could safely aim at the extreme corners. As you can see from how wide this diagram has to be, that extra distance meant a bigger screen instantly penalized you with a deeper, incredibly heavy TV box. But monochrome screens only had to worry about brightness. To introduce color, engineers had to split that single electron gun into 3 separate guns. One for red, one for green, and one for blue. The ultimate challenge was alignment. How do you stop these 3 beams from blending with each other and making a muddy mess? The solution was a physical metal barrier placed directly behind the glass. In early designs, this was a shadow mask, which uses a metal sheet with microscopic holes to filter the beams. Later, a competing layout called the Aperture grill used thin vertical wires for higher brightness. Because the 3 guns fire from slightly different angles, these barriers block the stray edges of the beams, ensuring each gun has a perfectly straight line of sight only to its designated color grid. While CRTs were perfect for moving video, they were largely overcomplicated for devices like calculators that just needed to display simple numbers. To lower manufacturing costs and shrink the hardware, engineers completely abandoned the moving electron beam and turned to fixed, hard-coded geometry. The earliest breakthrough was the Nixie tube, which used a literal 3D stack of shaped number wires layered on top of each other inside a gas bulb, lighting up whichever layer received electricity. To flatten this architecture even further, they invented the vacuum fluorescent display, or VFD, housing a flat, bright neon grid inside a sealed glass capsule. Eventually, this evolved into the modern, universally recognized 7-segment LED, which organizes 7 independent, bright bars into the shape of an 8. By selectively lighting up different combinations of these fixed blocks, any number could be instantly displayed on an incredibly thin, ultra-cheap panel. Segmented displays proved that flat screens were possible, but they couldn't display complex, fluid video. To build a true flat-screen television, engineers had to think bigger by thinking smaller, creating a layout logic that essentially squeezed millions of microscopic neon signs into a single panel. This was the plasma display. As you can see in this structure, the display is a massive electrical grid controlling millions of tiny chambers. Each cell is filled with a specific mixture of gas, typically around 85 to 90% neon and 10 to 15% xenon. When the grid sends an electrical charge through a cell, it instantly ionizes the gas, turning it into a superheated state of matter called plasma. This plasma releases invisible ultraviolet light that strikes a colored phosphor coating on the chamber walls, making them glow. Because every single pixel creates its own light, plasma offered unmatched contrast and deep blacks. However, running millions of tiny gas explosions generated intense heat, consumed massive power, and left the phosphors vulnerable to burn in. Where static images would leave a permanent, faded ghost on the screen, which you've probably seen on some devices. To replace power-hungry plasma cells, engineers built a universal, always-on backlight grid and placed an active light filtering engine directly in front of it. Physically, this engine is made of 3 distinct layers stacked right on top of each other. The bottom layer is a polarizer filter with vertical slots. Stuffed directly into the middle is a liquid crystal layer. And capping off the top is a second polarizer filter, but rotated 90 degrees to have horizontal slots. On their own, these filters form a total light trap. Raw light leaves the backlight, becomes vertically filtered by the first gate, and is stopped by the horizontal top gate. To control this trap, we introduce an electrical on and off switch. When the switch is flipped to on, it sends a charge that forces those liquid crystal molecules to form a twisted spiral staircase. That spiral physically bends our light waves 90 degrees, turning them sideways so they can slip perfectly through the horizontal top filter and escape to your eyes. But when we flip the switch to off, the crystals instantly untwist and stand straight up. The vertical light now passes through the crystals completely unchanged, hitting that top horizontal filter and getting trapped there, creating a perfectly pitch-black pixel. Once engineers mastered the liquid crystal light gate, they faced a massive scale challenge. To display a full-color digital image, they couldn't just throw colors randomly onto a screen. They had to organize them into a strict, repeating grid. They did this by creating the microscopic layout logic we still use today, dividing every single pixel into 3 vertical columns called subpixels, one red, one green, and one blue. Together, this repeating RGB pattern that we mentioned earlier relies entirely on an optical illusion. These tiny colored stripes don't physically move or mix. Instead, by varying the brightness of each individual bar, they trick your eyes into blending them together into thousands of distinct shades. However, early digital displays had a massive physical layout problem. To control millions of these tiny elements, engineers had to route microscopic electrical wires between them. These wires took up physical space, creating a thick black border around every single pixel block. And as you might think, when you zoom in on a low-resolution image like this number 2, those thick borders become overwhelmingly visible. This structural flaw is known as the screen door effect, because it makes the image look exactly like you are viewing a beautiful landscape through a wire mesh screen window. Now, the next problem was making these borders smaller and less noticeable, which was also eventually solved. To shrink that screen door effect and drive millions of subpixels, engineers had to figure out how to send individual electrical instructions to every single cell simultaneously. The first approach was the passive matrix. As you can see on this grid, they ran shared horizontal and vertical wires, pulsing electricity down the target row and column to light up the liquid crystal right where they crossed. But electricity naturally bleeds, creating this blurry dot at the intersection, which leaked color and contrast to its neighbors. Because this layout had to slowly refresh row by row, it caused a sluggish response time. This is why passive tech was limited to simple devices like digital alarm clocks, and why it suffered from ghosting. Ghosting is an effect you've probably seen where a moving mouse cursor leaves a blurry trail behind it. To achieve the instant video performance we use today, engineers upgraded to the active matrix. They used the exact same grid layout, but embedded a microscopic thin-film transistor, or TFT, directly at the intersection of every single cell. This transistor acts as an isolated, sharp gatekeeper, represented by this crisp red rectangle. It traps the electrical charge perfectly within that single pixel chamber without letting a drop leak. By giving every subpixel its own dedicated brain, response times plummeted to stopwatch speeds, color purity skyrocketed, and the modern high-performance flat screen was born. But controlling that matrix grid was only half the battle. The physical way those liquid crystals are arranged inside that active matrix sandwich changes everything about a monitor's real-world performance, splitting the display market into 3 distinct approaches. First is twisted nematic, or TN. Naturally, these crystals sit horizontally, twisting light 90 degrees to let it pass through. Turn the electricity on, and they snap upright to block it. Because they start naturally white and require very little physical movement to switch off, TN panels offer blistering response times, making them the historic favorite for competitive gaming, where speed is everything. Next is vertical alignment, or VA. These crystals do the exact opposite. They start standing completely vertical to block light perfectly, giving them a naturally black resting state with a very deep contrast in the industry. Turn the power on, and they tilt 90 degrees to let light slip past. This massive contrast makes VA panels the ultimate choice for watching movies in dark home theaters or handling standard office text documents. Finally, in-plane switching, or IPS, abandons vertical tilting entirely. These crystals lie flat and simply swivel sideways on a flat horizontal plane. Because they stay parallel to the glass at all times, light escapes uniformly in every direction. This approach unlocks flawless, true-to-life color accuracy and ultra-wide viewing angles, making IPS the absolute gold standard for photographers, digital artists, and graphic design work. But no matter which panel variation you choose, liquid crystals cannot emit their own light. They can only filter it. This means every LCD requires a constant backlight architecture, which underwent a massive engineering overhaul. For years, that light came from CCFLs, or cold cathode fluorescent lamps. As you can see, these were essentially miniature versions of the buzzing glass tubes found in office ceilings. They required high-voltage power components to spark to life, took time to warm up, and contained toxic mercury. The industry completely transformed when we transitioned to LEDs, or light-emitting diodes. By swapping out fragile glass tubes for a dense grid of tiny, solid-state semiconductors, everything changed. This approach simplified the process as LEDs turn on instantly and consume a fraction of the power, allowing modern displays to become thinner, more reliable, and vastly more energy efficient. But even with advanced LED backlights, we were still fundamentally shining a massive flashlight through a complex liquid crystal shutter. The ultimate paradigm shift arrived with OLED, or organic light-emitting diodes. First, a vital point of clarity. OLED is not just a minor upgrade to LED. It completely rewrites the rules by eliminating both the backlight and the liquid crystals entirely. Instead, as you can see, OLED is a self-emissive display, meaning every single subpixel is its own independent light bulb. When an OLED screen wants to display a dark night sky, it doesn't try to block a backlight. It simply shuts that specific pixel completely off. This technology from white to absolute black unlocks practically infinite contrast and incredible color depth. Furthermore, removing the liquid crystal layers means light escapes freely in every direction, giving you perfect image quality at almost any viewing angle. By stripping away the bulky filters and glass layers, OLED also allows displays to be incredibly thin and physically pliable. This is why the technology is the premium standard for everything from the vibrant smartphone in your pocket to ultra-thin, curved gaming monitors. But this incredible performance comes with a major real-world catch: burn-in. Because the O in OLED stands for organic, these carbon-based compounds wear out over time. To make matters worse, different colors degrade at completely different rates, with blue wearing out the fastest. If static elements like a video game bar or a news ticker sit on the screen for too long, or if you increase the brightness, the ultimate enemy becomes the heat. The heavily taxed pixels run hotter, decay prematurely, and leave a permanent, ghostly shadow on your screen, which we discussed earlier. To push back against this physical decay, a structural workaround called WRGB was developed. Instead of forcing the standard red, green, and blue subpixels to handle everything, they added a dedicated white subpixel to the array. Now, whenever the display needs to output blindingly bright light, the white subpixel handles the heavy lifting. By routing the most intense electrical currents through the white subpixel, the ultimate goal is to protect the delicate red, green, and blue organic compounds from extreme heat, boosting the display's peak brightness while drastically extending its lifespan. But while OLED was busy fixing its material vulnerabilities, traditional LCD technology mounted a massive comeback: Mini LED. Keep in mind that this isn't a new self-emissive panel like OLED. Beneath the surface, it relies on the exact same three-layer LCD architecture we covered earlier. The difference lies in sheer, aggressive miniaturization. By shrinking standard LEDs down to a fraction of their original size, roughly 40 times smaller, engineers completely redefined backlight control. Where early local dimming relied on a few chunky lighting zones that caused harsh halos of light to cross into surrounding dark pixels, a dense grid of microscopic mini LEDs operates with surgical precision. Light is contained exactly where it belongs, slashing blooming to near zero. The end result? You get blinding HDR highlights, ink-deep contrast that rivals OLED, and also a display that is fundamentally immune to burn-in. But while local dimming solved contrast, we still faced a major optical barrier: color volume. Standard backlights and organic pixels waste massive amounts of light, filtering out muddy wavelengths. The breakthrough solution came from nanotechnology: quantum dots. Quantum dots are microscopic semiconductor crystals where physical size dictates light emission. Smaller dots emit high-energy blue and green light, while larger dots emit deep reds. When placed as an enhancement film directly over a blue LED backlight, you get QLED. Instead of filtering out bad light, these dots convert blue energy into hyperpure primary colors, creating a dramatically wider, more vibrant color wheel. However, QLED still relies on a traditional LCD panel and backlight grid. The ultimate evolution occurs when you combine quantum dots directly with a self-emissive OLED base, creating QD-OLED. By swapping out dull color filters for a quantum dot layer, QD-OLED pairs OLED's instant response speed and infinite contrast with the unmatched color brightness of quantum nanotechnology, delivering the absolute peak of modern screen performance. Yet, even with QD-OLED, display engineers were still looking for the ultimate technology: a screen with all of OLED's strengths, but none of its organic weaknesses. That became MicroLED. First, it shouldn't be confused with Mini-LED. Mini-LED simply shrinks traditional backlights behind an LCD panel. Micro-LEDs, by contrast, are microscopic, far smaller than a human hair, and serve as the actual pixels themselves. By replacing organic compounds with tiny, inorganic diodes, MicroLED achieves the total package. It is self-emissive, delivering true black levels with pixel-perfect precision, while unlocking extreme high brightness with zero burn-in. So why isn't MicroLED everywhere yet? The bottleneck isn't physics. It's manufacturing. A single 4K panel requires transferring over 25 million microscopic LEDs onto a board with submicron precision, keeping factory yields low and production costs extraordinarily high. But as mass transfer technology steadily matures, MicroLED remains the undisputed future of display tech. A glimpse of ultimate screen perfection that is slowly making its way to the consumer market. In conclusion, every screen you look at today, whether on your phone, tablet, or PC, is the result of decades of engineering dedicated to deceiving the human eye into seeing seamless reality. When you look at a display box in a store, terms like LCD, OLED, or QLED aren't just marketing labels. They represent a constant balancing act between contrast, brightness, longevity, and manufacturing cost. As display technology continues to evolve over time, engineers remain locked in a perpetual effort to create the ultimate screen with zero drawbacks. Understanding how these displays function behind the panel transforms how you view the devices you use every single day, and hopefully, gives you a clearer perspective the next time you choose your next screen. This marks the end of our journey through the evolution of display technologies. If you found this breakdown helpful, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Thank you for watching.